Let's talk science fiction. It can be visually dazzling, awe-inspiring, enjoyably puzzling, the spring-off point for many an incredible action set piece. Just in general, it can be imaginative and breathtaking to such a degree that other genres often struggle to keep up. And my favorite part is how it can encourage a particular kind of thoughtfulness, maybe to envision how things like life and stuff might be in the world of tomorrow, or in a galaxy far, far away, or in alternate and less boring universes, and what that's all then might say about the current human condition. Now, there are multitudes of anime that tap into science fiction, and it's such a perfect fit. Anime as a medium has a sense of style that lends well to the strengths and potential of science fiction as a genre. So it should naturally follow that a lot of anime I like and love involves sci-fi. But I can't really say that much of it truly scratches the thoughtfulness itch. So when something does accomplish that, it's damn near guaranteed an instant winner in my book. And thus to wit, coming up in RedStripe Reviews, Gunslinger Girl. In modern-day Italy, a charitable government organization, the Social Welfare Agency, ostensibly takes in and helps rehabilitate young adolescent girls on their deathbeds. But that is a mere cover for their true purpose, as a black ops front that brainwashes and transforms those girls into experimental cyborg assassins who are then put to work dealing with the Italian government's dirtier business. These are their stories. Oh, and by the way, each girl is paired up with a male mentor and partner in crime, naturally referred to as their handler. So, maybe you're an outsider, or perhaps just told this to an outsider. I imagine the weirdness meter is currently around 11, as it should. Funny story. When my brother Chris saw me watching this on Netflix one summer ago, he was intrigued about it and thus asked what it was all about, upon which I gave approximately the same explanation. His first response was to smile amusingly and note that, yep, sounds very much like an anime. But therein lies one of the primary keys to its success. Whatever it is you may be expecting from such a concept going in, especially if you're expecting the worst, Gunslinger Girl evades them by playing its central concept dead seriously. And that was what got me interested in trying it out in the first place, though I still had doubts and reservations going into it. I mean, can we really trust anime to actually do such a slippery concept well? But those doubts dissipated almost immediately within seconds of putting on the first episode when the opening starts up. It was not what I was expecting. The opening alone often makes me emotional, and that's an exceedingly rare talent for a frickin' credit sequence. It's melancholy. It's beautiful, not just a little either. It goes all in on them. Little girl crouches and sprays bullets upon bullets down range, and it's somehow the most somber thing. When the opening concluded, I thought, well, maybe this actually will be something special. I'm happy to say that was no red herring. The commitment to seriousness holds up in the show too. Not just by not downplaying the more unsettling and unsavory aspects of brainwashing and cybernetically enhancing little girls, or even the machinations of a secret black ops agency, but actually focusing on and dealing with them in a nuanced manner. Thank God for that. On a related note, it's one of the quieter anime out there, too, funnily enough. The dialogue is sparse, lots of empty space gets left between sentences, and everyone, the girls in particular, is often soft-spoken when they do speak. But it's also one of the more dynamic anime sound-wise, too, because when the guns are going off, it gets loud. I think the way the sound was done added substantially to the experience. Great ambience builder, has you hanging on to every word, and it hits harder when it does get loud. But it also beckons either headphones or the guarantee that no one's sleep will be disrupted. Otherwise, like I had to, there will be lots of volume twiddling. How about we meet the girls and their respective handlers, each pair nicknamed as a fratello. In order of appearance, Henrietta, the newest addition to the Social Welfare Agency and de facto main character. Quiet and kind, and naturally as the freshest meat, deals with her newfound responsibilities, her identity, and how she feels towards her handler, Jose. Jose, in turn, being by extension the newest handler in the pack, struggles with how he should treat and train Henrietta. Rico, Henrietta's roomie, eternally optimistic and nearly always cheery, sometimes to unsettling effects, but in many other cases so disarming that I can't help but be emotionally moved. She is paired with Gene. Fun fact, very easy to miss, but Gene is Jose's older brother, and he isn't as empathetic as his little bro. His treatment of Rico is guided under the belief that the girls are tools and weapons and ought not to be considered human, yet she is ultra loyal to him. Just as a warning, for all of the thoughtfulness I praise, Gunslinger Girl will nonetheless make you consider favorites because it is still an anime, and although all of the girls are truly winners in my book, Just between you and me, Riko's my favorite. Triella, the big sis. Been in service the longest out of all the girls on active duty. Also has perhaps the most personality to speak of, including a capacity for sass and the rumblings of a rebellious teenager phase. That makes her a good counterpoint to the other girls, since the legs of Henrietta and Riko can feel Stepford-esque at times. Her handler is the awesomely named Hillshire, who suffers at the hands of Triella acting all teen. Clyce, Megane Bookworm, and Triella's roomie. A relatively minor character overall, but still notable for two reasons. First, doesn't sugarcoat whatever happens to be on her mind, even when it's not so kind, and thus, like Triella, serves as a good counterpoint to the other girls. And second, is not on active duty because she has no handler. Also, she bakes cakes that are apparently to die for. And now I'm hungry. Finally, Angelica, the first child. The first girl brought into the agency, the prototype case, if you will, currently not on active duty thanks to augmentation-related issues. She gets piled on a lot throughout the course of the series, which is a damn shame because she's such a ray of sunshine. Her handler is Marco, frustrated at her current condition, sometimes taking it out on Angelica herself. There are other players too, but the vast majority of time and attention goes towards the girl handler pairs. And considering that the whole season is a measly 13 episodes, they're more than sufficient. The actual progression of the series is very slice-of-life-like, and thus slow-paced and contemplative, also rather episodic, completes with some requisite girl in the limelight episodes, but also at its worst, has first and second episodes that are redundant as hell. Completes with episode 2 reusing a bunch of key scenes, and action scenes to boot from episode 1, wholesale. That hurts the immersion and pacing a good bit, but outside of that hiccup, the progression isn't that fundamentally flawed. There's more time dedicated to interactions between all of the different players than the missions. Not like the girls see the missions as the focal points of their lives after all, that honor belongs to their handlers. It's one of the results of their conditioning and such. Even within the missions themselves, action is a downplayed focus, usually to the point, veers away from flashy gunplayer displays of cyborg super strength powers, for a more grounded at least, realistic at most approach. Each mission is more about the build-up and setup, rather than when the shit hits the fan. Basically, in pretty much every respect, Gunslinger Girl is slow, and that's a risky move. To gamble away adrenaline and excitement, to attempt being engaging instead. It surely won't be everyone's preference, but it absolutely worked on me. This series is engaging as hell. How so? First, the slower, more grounded approach to the missions works to their benefits by making the missions actually feel like missions. When they say they're going to pull off an assassination, that means they actually are going to pull off an assassination, stealth setup and all, with no need to turn into bombastic gun fu. Really though, the main goal of slowing everything down ultimately is to focus on the characters and how they all interact with each other. A wise move, considering that said characters are quite possibly Gunslinger Girl's primary strength. Not perfect, mind you. The handlers, with the possible exception of Marco, are not completely well developed personality-wise or especially motivation-wise. Why the hell are these guys signing up for what they find out is such morally and ethically heinous business? If you don't read the manga, you'd never know why Josei and Jean in particular are doing it, because the anime doesn't take time to explain. Plus, in the English dub, the handlers all sound too similar, so yeah, could be better. But then again, why care all that much? This isn't primarily their story. And even if the handlers themselves as characters are not so well done, their relationships with the girls nonetheless are. Character interaction in general is spot on. Gunslinger Girl might be a significant part slice of life, but the goings-on and conversations aren't fluff. They're always meaningful in some way and consistently interesting too. A handler will teach his girl the particulars of sniping. Handlers will argue about how much to condition the girls. A bunch of social welfare agency workers will improvise a story about the Prince of Pasta. Girls will rev up into overdrive whenever they sense that their handlers are being threatened. Someone will complain about always getting teddy bears as gifts. It all adds up to being slice of life in a character study friendly sort of way. The series' crowning triumph where characterization is concerned, however, is how the girls themselves are depicted. There's a delicate and difficult balance of their kids and their dangerous, of their precious and their brainwashed, that needed to be maintained for Henrietta, Riko, Triella, Clyce, and Angelica to not be ruined as characters, and Gunslinger Girl nails it. It's obvious at heart that they are young girls, but the show doesn't whitewash their killer pedigree or the effects of their conditioning to accomplish that, and by the same token, the girls are shown to be a serious danger and just possibly maybe a little screwed up in the head, concerning their feelings toward their handlers in particular, but the show does so without outright demonizing or vilifying them for it. It's even basically pointed out that most, if not all, of how they've turned out is not their fault. all of which amounts to one of the more interesting, compelling, and even sympathetic portrayals of the yandere archetype out there. Yeah, so I implied way before that Gunslinger Girl does science fiction's potential for being thoughtful pretty damn well. It sure does look and act the part, at least, with its devotion to quiet and muted colors and all the scenic shots of Italy, but there's actual red meat beyond all the spectacle too, so props to Madhouse. They've set a tone that actively encourages the thoughts. Their primary mechanism? Emotionally making things very weird. They don't telegraph how to feel about the setting, and they don't make things easy for you to figure out. Gunslinger Girl just is. Hell, that's somewhat implied right away in the logo catchphrase. The girl has a mechanical body. However, she is still an adolescent child. However, indeed. The way the series deals with the girl's latent yandere tendencies is just one example. I mean, they're most likely to be off their rocker, and yet I can't help but sympathize for them. At their core, after all, Henrietta and company are sweet, very much act their age, even if a touch more obedient than the average child, yet it's undeniable that being around them would be so dangerous because they could just kill me so easily given the right circumstances. Oh, goodness. The head just hurts in all the thought. The handlers and the social welfare agency at large, too. Even at the adults' nicest, they're still taking part in heinous as fuck business that they have full self-awareness about, in terms of both what happens to the girls and the black ops shit they're running. So, how much can we really call them the good guys? And yet, on the whole, they're also seemingly doing unquestionable good reigning in some of this Italy's organized crime and terrorist problems. It even spills into not so much should they be doing this, but rather, is what they're doing even worth it? Or also, does this really help the girls? Throughout the season's run, you get to learn of most of the girls' backstories and what was left of them before the social welfare agency brought them in, and they're all some potent combination of really tragic and massively fucked up. And they don't even get to the hands down the worst one either. And when you compare how they were then to how they are now, even accounting for the brainwashing, cybernetics, murderous business, and resultant mental side effects of it all, their situation may very well be better. Even in a meta, breaking the fourth wall kinds of way, we as an audience wouldn't get to witness and be endeared to the goings-on of the girls without the social welfare agency, so maybe we also owe them some kind of credit for that, right? Right? I don't know. The hypothetical reality even spills into thoughts about the real reality. What happens with the girls and the agency reminds me of that one maxim, that much of the technological innovation we use and take for granted came from the military. And usually, whenever that's said, it's in the context of commending military work. I mean, the internet, for example. And also, possibly in the near future, package delivery drones. The work done on the girls has serious potential for civilian applications. Fully functioning artificial limbs would be endlessly useful. But the series makes us see the machinery that would make it possible, and it ain't pretty. So, does the eventual civilian benefit justify the means towards it? I mean, much of the technological innovation we use and take for granted came from the military. Do the civilian benefits justify the means towards them? That's a perfectly valid question. It doesn't seem to be getting asked much. Certainly not until more recently, thanks to the recent hoopla over drones being used abroad. Gunslinger Girl seems to me like a good way to wrestle with such issues, even if just by proxy. A lot of that could even apply to the ethics stretching, to put it lightly, of government intelligence organizations like the NSA and CIA. Do the supposed results justify the means? And I've said enough, though it's seriously tempting to say more. However, I'm damn near out of time. So, it should be hardly surprising after the last 12 minutes how I'm summarizing this. Gunslinger Girl is a great anime in my estimation. Legitimately compelling science fiction, hell, I'd say one of my favorite anime delving into it, though giving the skeevy sounding subject matter and the killer redundancy in episode 2, maybe not one to recommend it just to everybody. But wait, there's more. Years after the original, a continuation subtitled Il Teatrino was made by a different studio. And it's different. Really, really different. And maybe there will be a review one day if I finish it.